Okay, on to our next presentation. We have Richard and Anne with the technology update, and I believe Anne is first.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Anne, and I'll be going through the operations update. This morning, I'll be covering network availability, operational issues, and service delivery. Our network availability has been relatively high across all of the LANs over the last few months, though with a few exceptions. We didn't reach our target of 5 nines in February on LUN1 as a residual effect from the Junos upgrades. We had some traffic loss during the upgrades as the MX10K cards don't go offline easily, which is a known issue. In March on LUN1, due to the VPLS EVPN issues, which I'll discuss on later slides. And in Nova in March, due to the outage in Digital Realty ACC5, which I'll touch on later as well. We have had a few operational issues since the last LINX meeting. In early March, there was a very brief outage in Nova Digital Realty ACC5, which affected 36 members. It was triggered by a configuration change, which caused a hardware error of system abnormal shutdown. We engaged JTAC, whose engineering confirmed it was due to the RE upgrade that took place a few weeks before. Enhanced IP should have been added when the nonstop active routing, graceful routing engine switchover was disabled during the upgrade. This was missed and added at the end of the upgrade, and the REs rebooted individually, which left the REs in an odd state and caused both of them to reboot. The next one is about what happened on March 23rd and resulted in a significant outage impacting most members on LUN1 during a short period. During the troubleshooting and post-mortem of the outage, it became clear that the actual trigger of the outage happened during the maintenance the night before, but that, as we now know, already experienced the same failure at a much more limited impact earlier. I'll now go over in the chronological details. On 9th of March, this was the first maintenance scheduled to remove all remaining VPLS configuration from all LUN1 edge and core routers. As a reminder, in order to migrate from VPLS to EVPN, all routers were running both VPLS and EVPN, while all member services were being moved from one to the other. During that maintenance, after removing VPLS configuration from 2 routers, we experienced traffic loss between 3 of the routers. We engaged JTAC to troubleshoot the issue and were able to restore traffic, but decided not to complete the changes on the remainder of the network to allow for further investigations with Juniper. The following day, a routine configuration push through our automation platform caused a layer 2 learning issue on core 3 THN, where the layer 2 address learning daemon process stalled. We were not able to fully identify the root cause of this incident. We now know that this was the exact same issue that caused the outage on the 23rd. During the night from the 22nd to 23rd of March, we completed the maintenance to remove the VPLS configuration from the remaining routers, using a slightly changed process based on the investigation between us and Juniper after the issue identified during the first attempt earlier in the month. The maintenance was completed successfully, or so we thought, within the maintenance window, and all remaining VPLS configuration was removed. The following morning, after routine troubleshooting of a member issue, we experienced the same issue on Edge 2 THN, where the layer 2 address learning daemon process stalled and caused traffic to be impacted. A restart of the process restored connectivity for members on Edge 3 THN. We started immediately to engage JTAC again, but unfortunately did not yet link the issue directly to the work done overnight. Later that morning, another routine configuration change was pushed to Edge 1 THW, causing once more the same issue. At that point, we stopped all provisioning work until we had a better understanding of which configuration changes were the potential trigger for the issue. During the continuing troubleshooting with Juniper, layer 2 learning trace options were enabled on all routers to increase the likelihood of capturing additional data, which could help in case of further issues. Unfortunately, in hindsight, this change was pushed out through our automation platform to all routers. I say unfortunately, since we did not know at that time that any commit could trigger the issue, which is exactly what happened. The commit of the changes caused the layer 2 learning issue on all routers, except the ones which already experienced the fault earlier. We were able to restore connectivity quickly by restarting the layer 2 address learning daemon process on all affected routers. but understandably by then, a number of members had moved their traffic away from LUN1 through other peering or transit services. At this point, we stopped all changes in addition to provisioning to the network until we had full understanding of the actual root cause, and the network remained stable from that point on. Juniper was able to recreate the issue and confirm that when the VPLS configuration is removed, a loop condition is triggered when the layer 2 address learning daemon process restarts. When it's restarted a second time, the state is cleared. Since the issue is triggered by the removal of VPLS, it is not expected to hit us again. On 17th of March, an Agent Smith 16 by 10 gig member facing card on Edge 3 THN was unresponsive, affecting 12 members. One of our engineers replaced the card and restored service. Last week, we had a power outage at Equinix Harbor Exchange, where we lost connectivity to Core 3 TCH, which affected 18 members for about 2.5 hours. It was triggered by the failure of one of the MX 10K power supplies. This tripped the main breaker for the A feed for that rack. We have 32 amp feeds to the rack, but they are unfortunately split into two 16 amp breakers at PDU level. The shift of power to the B feed caused a loss of power to Core 3 TCH, which was resolved when our engineers worked with Equinix and replaced the faulty power supply and moved some equipment in the rack to the second 16A breaker to prevent overloading in case of increased power draw. This outage was similar to one we had last year, and after that outage, we took the action to perform power audits, but unfortunately didn't execute as well as we had thought. We missed the uneven distribution of DWDM equipment in Core 3 TCH. We are currently revalidating the data collected during our site audits, fault scenarios, and investigating the options to be able to further increase available power at specific racks. The last issue we've experienced was a power outage at Teledata in Manchester on 19th of May. We lost connectivity to our equipment for about 6 minutes, affecting 12 members. Teledata confirmed a power issue where their supply didn't fail over to the generators as expected, and we are still awaiting their full RFO. A quick service delivery update. Our continual growth in 100 gig orders is 292, up from 271 from the last LINX meeting. LINXManchester is at 18 and Nova has 7. As I've not presented on this before, I just wanted to mention some of the metrics that we report on. All completed orders are in blue, completed port orders are orange, orders in progress of less than 10 days is gray, and orders that are over 10 days are yellow. The over 10 days can be due to various reasons, but mostly including awaiting members' cabling and migration dates. And we've recently worked with a member on a big project to provide them a dedicated suite and all of their cabling needs at both Equinix and Telehouse under tight deadlines, while giving the member a single contact and taking a lot of the complexity out of such a setup with LINX handling all the data center interaction. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I'm not seeing any questions at the moment, Anne.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. So over to Richard next.
Yep, thanks, Anne. Thanks, Jen. Right, so I was going to quickly share my, my presentation, hopefully the right one.
Yeah, looks good.
Looks good. So I mean, thanks to Anne for giving an update on the service issues, and obviously you know, we are you know, working with our data center partners and Juniper on understanding how to improve on some of these areas that Anne went through. I'm going to go through a number of projects now and take you through what we expect to see our technology teams do over the next 6 months as we look forward to when we get back together in November. And hopefully, you never know, in November we may be meeting in person in some format. So I'm going to go through significant projects, a little bit of an update on our portal. Mike and Ricardo both gave a presentation at 112, LINX112, and I'll follow on from there. A status on 400 gig, and I've got a final item, which is on an email consultation, which we'll put to you, Curtis and I will put to you around a change to the MOU. So from a significant projects point of view, we continue to work on the technical service inventory. So Ricardo touched on this, but this is really something that's at the core of the work that we're doing. The first part that we're focusing on or continuing on is all of the PI data. So the private interconnect fiber infrastructure that we run mainly in Telehouse is a big part of our overall offering that we give to members. And this has always been managed across different systems and various ad hoc data sources. And the idea is that we move all of this into a central database and integrate it into our tooling so that we make it not only can our engineers manage it much better, but also we can present that information through and to the membership through the portal work as well. Part of the work will also see endpoint migration. So we have various API setups across the different systems, internal systems, and we're doing some migrations that will again enable us to enhance the portal and user interface offerings. And I've got a little slide on that. But essentially, the endpoint migration leads to two key developments. It enables us to launch the technical services inventory user interface, which is predominantly going to be used by the network engineers to perform complex tasks. And it also enables us to release a simplified CRM, customer relationship management system, for the Sugar CRM system, which up until now is being used for pretty much technical and business functions, which it doesn't really it's not really geared to run on that. So by completing items 1 and 2, we'll be able to release both the engineering and the CRM UIs as we go through the project. Another big project part of this, all linked together, is the portal. Mike gave a presentation at 112 on this, and I've got in the second section, I'm going to go through in a little bit more detail what we're doing with portal over the next two cycles of program increments that we go through. And this will eventually lead to, or say eventually this year, in the coming months, this will lead to self-service. So what are we trying to do with self-service? We have run for a number of years an internal network configuration system, the NCA platform, and we want to be able to expose that through the APIs and through the portal so that members can do self-service. We've already launched on the old portal contact management, and we'll continue to have things like that on the new portal, self-service, organizational level self-service. But we also want to launch technical self-service, such as MAC address change. So as a member, you can log in on the portal, you can choose to do a MAC change, and you can push through the NCA platform without any contact with LINX to change the configuration for your MAC address. And we have into Anne's team and the NOC, we have around about 200 member requests per year. So these are things that hopefully will be the self-service functionality will be well utilized. And what does that look like? I just wanted to really explain, because there's a lot of information there, but with what we're doing. And this is the new LINX portal that we're working on. We as a NOC use this user interface called Toolbox. So when a basic request comes in from a member to make a change, there's a user interface which enables the NOC to consume various change elements through the LINX API services. And what we're essentially doing is, through improvements to the technical service inventory that I spoke about and self-service through the portal, it means that members can have exactly the same functionality into our automation platform to change live configuration on the network. Obviously only live configuration that is specific to that member's services. And if you choose not to use the portal self-service, you can still put a request through to the NOC, and they will use the same functionality to make those changes. And these are the areas, obviously the LINX API endpoints, the TSI and the portal are the main areas that we're working on over the next 6 months. Then from an exchange point of view, as you heard from Anne, we have a lot of service delivery requests that come in. So we're, whilst we do tend to see during the sort of June, July, August time, a little bit of a lull in traffic volumes, we tend to see around August that ramp back up again, and we're getting ready for that. So the team are going through London 1 and London 2 mainly, doing ISL inter-switch link upgrades so that we've got capacity between sites to pass traffic. We're also ordering more 100 gig cards. I'm sure many of you are seeing it. We've got longer lead time on components and cards, and that's coming from an impact out of some of the impacts of COVID globally around shortage of components, which means instead of having an 8-week lead time on cards and components, we're seeing in the region of 12 to 16 weeks. So we're not expecting to have to say to anyone that that we can't deliver in time. So we're getting ahead and making sure that we have the capacity built into the network so we can continue to service 100 gig orders as we go through the Q3 and Q4 of the year. We're also working on closed user groups, so I'm not going to go into detail with that because Mike's going to cover that in his product update and give you an explanation of how that will be launched. We're working through 400 gig as well, and I've got section 3 covers that in detail about what we're doing. And then the other area on the exchanges is root server, and again Mike will give you an update on BCP 214. The area that we're working on that I will update on is OpenBGPD testing. So this is an alternate root server to the bird that we run today. So Mo has been testing the version 6.8, which had come out, and we've now got version 6.9 in the lab. And he's working through with other internet exchanges and the root server support foundation. Progress to date has been very positive. Whilst it doesn't, OpenBGPD doesn't scale to the same level as Bird at this stage, so it wouldn't be a viable solution for, say, a London 1 or London 2. It is starting to get to the stage where it will scale to a smaller internet exchange, across maybe Wales or Scotland, where we could actually see it deployed and for it to run. What we're going to be doing though is continue to test before we go into any kind of operational deployment, making sure that it integrates with our automation platform and all of our monitoring and alerting. And I know Mo has got various working group calls with the RSSF group throughout the next 2-3 weeks. We continue to improve and try to enhance our observation and monitoring. So there's some legacy systems, the Nagios to iSinger, new iSinger system replacing the old Nagios system. We're testing a next generation of monitoring through intelligent ops with a partnership with a company called Selector AI. We've continued to develop our Prometheus deployment for stats, which is both internal and member facing, and that will enhance what the new portal users will see. And on security and assurance, we've selected to work towards ISO 27001 framework, and we'll endeavour to reach the certification level this year. We're reviewing our software lifecycle development to make sure that fits to the security best practices. And as you heard from Mike before, we're launching multi-factor authentication for members, so that if you're logging into the portal to make a change, you will go through an authentication process, because obviously you're now for the first time being able to make a change live on the network with your portal credentials.
Richard, there is actually a question about that, which I think you kind of just answered it, but the question is, if you're going to provide access to physical infrastructure via the portal, will you update the portal to 2-factor authentication or allow members to opt out if they do not wish to take part?
Yeah, I mean, we would prefer, I mean, we won't enforce, but we would prefer, we will give the option to opt out at this stage. So the preferred method will be, but we're not planning to say, look, you've opted out, so you won't be able to do self-service. It will be more that the member decides to take that risk on themselves and will opt out and say, well, that's fine, I accept that level of risk. So the plan is to launch it. The preferred method will be that members do adopt this, but we will have an opt-out option available, yeah.
And the follow-on, would the Okta system be standalone, i.e. different from the rest of the LINX systems? Yes,
so we have two instances of Okta. We have a staff authentication system, and we have a member authentication system, and they're both run independently. So we won't have any kind of single point of failure on that.
Cool. There was just one final feedback that we can give to the portal team. Please can you make it clear in the portal where data entered by members triggers some sort of change automatically, e.g. changing MAC addresses, as opposed to a change that's going to be carried out later by an ops team. It would be useful to have an idea of time taken. So
I was going to cover that in my next couple of slides. So that's a great question. No, that's good. I mean, it's something. Yeah, we've had some feedback, and obviously that's something critical that we do want to make very clear that any change that someone's making is going to be instantly pushed. But I mean, just before I come to that in the portal section, just to let you know that we, part of our security improvements, we are working on this work package called under the telecom security requirements, and we're assessing what that means to LINX and what that might mean from a technical impact on LINX, and that will be built into any kind of security improvements we make in the coming 6 months as well. So yeah, I mean, onto the portal development. I'm not going to repeat the look and feel. Mike done an excellent presentation at 112, and there's a link there. So if you're interested to see what the portal will look like and from a graphical point of view, then please click through to Mike's presentation and review that. Ricardo also touched on the roadmap and the automation work, and I've given an update today on the TSI technical service inventory work that continues, and that is a key enabler for this. What will happen is beta launch is expected this program increment, so that's the second quarter, so that runs through to June, and we're planning to launch the beta version to a selected subset of members that are interested in testing this out. The beta, it will be a new portal, but it'll be very much standalone. It will interact with LINX services, but it'll only interact on new features that have been enabled. So if it won't link back through to the old features, and I'll get to the reasons why on that. The new features that are expected are like the MAC address change, and that, as you pointed out, Jen, from the questions, the idea is as you go through the self-service, if you then select I'd like to change my MAC address, you will get a pop-up or you get a warning on the page that says by continuing, you will be pushing this change to live to the network now, and that will be clear. For other changes that haven't been enabled through the NCA platform, it will reroute to a ticket that will go into the NOC queue. And then, as I showed you earlier, the NOC have the toolbox, which is a graphical interface utilizing our NCA internally. They will then make the change for you at a timed period. So it will be clear, and obviously when we go through the beta release for the select subset of members, and ultimately when it gets released to the membership, we'll continue to take feedback on is it clear, is it the right way of doing things. So the new portal will be released in PI3, so this is the July through to September period. This will be released to all members, but we will still have the old portal in running in parallel. So we toyed with the idea of sort of like waiting until we could shut down the old portal and then launch the new one in a kind of a big bang. But the danger there is that we slip and we don't release good value to the membership early. So what we've said is, look, during PI3, whatever feedback we've had from the beta group of members, and also we'll start to link back to the old portal, so that if you go, when we release the new portal to everybody in the membership, you can go through the portal. If there's something that hasn't been ported across to the new portal, you would just click through a link and it will automatically take you back to the old portal, and then you can fulfill what you need to fulfill on that. That sort of work will be done in PI3, and then obviously in PI4, which takes us through to the end of the year, we'll be looking for feedback from the membership and making sure that we enhance anything that is been fed back as far as feature requests and then what does it look like? Just to recap there, I mean the PIs, these are program increments. They're not quite quarter because they run for 12 weeks blocks, but because of the way they're spaced out, it more or less works out that it pretty much runs a quarter. So we're the PI1 was about getting ready and scaling the team to do this. PI2, we've done the beta development, and we will release the beta version to a subset of members. In PI3, it will go live for everybody, and we'll start to add additional features like private VLAN and closed user groups. And then in PI4 will be about migrating and porting all of the functionality from the old portal to the new one. 400 gig then. So taking a quick jump into this, we had a virtual GPF, and Jen's team had some really constructive discussion with members about expansion and growth. And it looks like we have a number of at least 3, maybe 4 members inquiring about late the summer 2021 deployments in London, and that's mainly on London 1. So hence we're testing across a number of vendors to meet this. We're looking at Juniper, Nokia and EdgeCore. And for London 1, we're testing 2 probable solutions, which is a Juniper deployment on the MX960. So this is a new card, MPC10, which supports low volume onboarding. So this is there's 2 flavors. There's a 2-port and a 4-port 400 gig card. So obviously, you know, we're not going to be using these cards for you know, high scale deployments. We're also looking at testing the interoperability with the Nokia solution, the SR7S, which we've tested the Nokia previously and as an aggregator. But this is where now we've moved over to EVPN on London 1. We're going to test the interoperability as introducing a Nokia device as a foreign PE into London 1. And obviously that device has a lot higher scaling on a per card basis. Juniper do have a similar card for the MX10K that's coming out, 400, a high scale, high density 400 gig card. Hardware and the software is expected to come out this year, but production wise we're probably looking at 2022 for that. So we'll continue on these 3 points. We'll continue to test and sign off acceptance, and obviously with the Juniper MPC10, hopefully the goal there is that we meet any member orders for 400 gig late summer 2021. And finally, I just wanted to just a final point there is on the optical interface. Mike representing product and Mariano on architecture are working together just to talk to all of the members that are interested about the optical interface that we'll be offering, the flavor of optical interface we'll be offering for the production services. So finally, it's just the email consultation that I wanted to touch on as my final point here. You know, for a number of years, we've run email for staff and members on the same setup. So this is that was done by an on-premise IMAP and SMTP service, and we adopted Microsoft's Office for LINX staff over a number of years, and but we've always kept the authoritative domain for LINX at linx.net on-premise, so that we accept all email into the LINX services and then reroute corporate staff email across to the Office environment. So we want to break this. We want to take away that single point of failure. We want to have the separation, and the best way that we decided to do this is to introduce a subdomain at list.linx.net domain that will come into our SMTP servers and will be on-prem. And then obviously the authoritative domain will be for at linx.net will be moved straight across to the Microsoft Office environment. So what does this mean for the membership? Well, we're going to put through a resolution. Obviously, I'm making everybody aware about this today, but Curtis and I will, before the end of May, we will be sending out an update to the member list explaining what changes will be made to the MOU. Obviously, there's references to email addresses in the MOU that need to update. The actual technical solution is not referenced in the MOU. If during June, essentially, there's no objections to this, we'll start to, as of 1st of July, we'll start to send out emails on to members on at lists, as well as at LINX, so that you'll see the mails come out on both. If the resolution passes, and obviously we have to wait until November before we get to the point where the resolution is voted on. That's the next LINX meeting that we can do this. We'll continue to send emails during this period, and then obviously if the resolution passes, we'll stop shortly after and stop sending at linx.net. And then we do during this period, and it's around about five months, we do expect members to go in and update any kind of email routing configuration you have on your side, and obviously those email addresses that are listed in the MOU and the supporting documentation around LAN announcements such as ops announce and things like that. We do expect you to then work through that during those 5 months, and then obviously at the end of that we'll move the authoritative domain for at LINX over to Microsoft, and we'll keep the at lists on-prem, and that will be our main communication on that. And that's, so look out for the update from Curtis and I on the actual details of the MOU changes, and if you do have any questions, obviously you can come back through that or speak to either Curtis or I at any stage. And that's it from me. So thank you for your time.